Hi YouTubers out there, it's Fortune Cookie 45LC coming to you with the subject of firearm mounted flashlights and lasers. So here of course is a laser. Now we see a lot of people using lasers at the range and they don't seem to be doing that well. The bullet holes are all over the place. And it's not like that commercial where the laser's there and the gun goes bang and a bullet hole appears right where the laser was. And they go bang again and another bullet hole appears right where the laser was. Well, we don't seem to be getting that at the range. I don't see all the shooters with lasers doing the same thing. Instead, the bullet holes are all over the place. And not only that, but we don't see the laser being rock steady. On TV, the professional shooters, the laser beams that they use are rock steady. And when they shoot, certainly the bullets do go where the laser was. But for all of us amateurs, the laser beam seems to be moving all over the place. And then when the gun goes off, the bullets aren't hitting where the lasers are, even though they're regulated. So here's the thing, we look at a laser beam and it's kind of like a very precise point. But suppose we really need to shoot fast in a defensive situation. We know that ghost rings are very fast. So why not use a bigger dot? Like this. That big dot's kind of like a ghost ring. And here's what happens if our gun sights actually are aligned to the center of that flashlight beam, then we really have the equivalent of a big dot or like a ghost ring sight. So here's our pistol. And if our sights are aligned right there on that ghost ring, see if I can get it on there for you. That could be a very effective sighting system. Now, of course, the advantage of a laser is that it holds that small dot together all the way out to 75 yards, 100 yards. It's still a small dot. And our flashlight beam starts to get pretty wide. But for defensive ranges, say inside of 10 yards, flashlight beam's not that large. And if it's farther than that, we can certainly use our sights. In fact, if it's farther than that, we may not have to use the firearm at all. So here's the beam. Notice that there is a big zone of light on both sides of the beam. And there's a hot spot in the center. Well, you know that the human eye always wants to go toward the brightest and center the brightest spot. And if our sights, our gun sights are aligned on that spot, we have a very effective aiming system. Let's see more about this and explore this some more. What you see in front of you is a wooden carving of an Indian chief. He's got a tomahawk in one hand and a buffalo shield in the other. This is not a cigar store Indian. In fact, this carving was probably done somewhere around the 1930s when Buffalo Bill Cody was doing the Wild West shows, and he might have even had one or two of these sitting there in the entrance where the people came through to pay for the ticket to enter the show. So no offense to the American Indian, We're just going to use this for a demonstration purpose, and there's no adversity intended here. But notice that there's an A zone right there. And if we put a laser beam on that A zone, notice that it's not exactly as steady as we'd like to see it. There's a little wobble there. And if I were a professional, I could probably keep that wobble down to almost nothing. But for an amateur, we can have a little bit of wobble. So in a defensive situation, you think we're going to be trying to get that red dot settled down? Or even try to? The answer is no. But remember what we were saying before, we can use our big dot. Notice that the eye quickly puts the dot on the target, so we're centered on the A zone, on that dot. And there's not a lot of wobble. Now, if our gun sights indeed are also aligned to the center of that dot, we can just trip the shots off and they're going to go right in there, right? Interesting concept. Now notice if our target starts to move, the person doesn't freeze when we want them to, and they start to move, then we just lead off to the side, whichever way the bad guy's going, and we can follow and make hits as necessary. Now, once again, no offense to the American Indian. We're not trying to shoot that wooden carving. That's a piece of American history. But let's go ahead and go to the range and see how this might work in an actual situation at the range. So we're going to go there and bring our flashlight and just test this out and see what happens with this. YouTubers, here we are at the range, and we're going to use the Streamlight flashlight, weapon-mounted flashlight, as an aiming point. Now you notice that the range is brightly lit, but even brightly lit, a shooter can make out the center hotspot. So let's give this a try. We got a shoot and see target in center there. We got 10 rounds, Smith & Wesson, M&P, and .45 caliber. So you see, that was fired by pointing only, and the distance is 8 yards, and the hits are there. And it was fast because you just pick up the center hotspot and trip the shots. So YouTubers, we just shot 10 rounds. Let's go ahead for some more. Now we chose the end lane so that it simulates a hallway and home defense type situation. So now we're going to move around a little bit, but not a lot because we have to maintain safety here. What do you think? One more time for good luck. So we moved around a little bit. Let's bring that target in. That's competent from shooting fairly quickly from the hip, point shooting only, and using the weapons mounted light as the aiming device. So think about these things, YouTubers out there. It's something to think about, right? Bye for now. Well, YouTubers out there, from a distance of 8 yards, all of these hits with a .45 caliber 230 grain defense ammunition will end the fight. Any of these hits will end the fight. So 45 ACP at 8 yards distance, very effective home defense for a pistol handgun type scenario. By the way, YouTubers, a very important aspect of hitting with a handgun, no matter what sighting system we use, is the trigger release. So here you see there's your aiming point, and watch what happens when the trigger is released. Notice that it didn't move. Now when you dry fire practice like this, make sure there's no ammunition nearby. And check your weapon, make sure you're clear so that it's safe dry firing. But here you go. Here's how you hit. There's your aiming point. And here's your trigger squeeze. And there you are. If you do this, your bullet will hit right there in the middle of that beam. So do it faster, like this. There's your beam, and you fire. Now, also you don't want to use the beam all the time because you'll give away your position. So you only use the beam, and if this streamlight works real well, there's a little switch that doesn't require any change in grip. You go like this, and there it is. So there it is. And there's the shot. Okay, YouTubers, so now let's look at this. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people in the modern pistol theory and all the training classes that'll disagree with all of this, but the purpose of this video is simply to get you thinking about, can this work for me? Will it work for me? And if it does work for you, think about it, practice it, see if it does work. And if it doesn't, by all means, it may not work for everybody. In fact, if your pistol sights do not align with the center of the flashlight beam, you won't be able to do this. But if your pistol does align, the sights do align with the beam, then this might be something that could work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, then of course you don't have to do all these things. This is just the purpose of the video is just to get us all thinking about the possibilities. And in fact, Streamlight, the maker of this flashlight, may very well want to add a little bit of adjustability to their flashlight systems to allow for this. Certainly, it's fast to use, much faster than trying to use a separate flashlight and hold it in your other hand, because then you got two things to think about: controlling your flashlight and controlling your muzzle, or even your laser, or this kind of thing. We need simplicity. When this flashlight's being used, the body and the eye will take this beam right to the threat. And if your gun follows this beam, then the threat is being covered just what we want or what we need. And it's simple. So by all means, we're not trying to say that this is going to work for everybody, but it just gets you thinking, and it may be better than trying to use a laser Nothing wrong with a laser, but it's a small aiming point as opposed to the equivalent of a ghost ring. I don't know if you like ghost rings or not, but certainly that your eye will go right to it. So think about this, YouTubers, and maybe we're onto something here.